just wanted to make a quick video, hopefully it'll be quick, explaining how this course is organized. So whether you're in part 1, 2, or part 3, the specialist, they all hold the same format. So all the courses are rooted in the Lucan resurrection story of the road to Emmaus, and Pope Francis's encyclical Laudato Si, Our Care for Our Common Home. You don't have to have the hard copy of this. You have the links within the course to read the sections you need to read. But I just wanted to show you how encyclicals are published, and they're published so that anyone can buy it and read it. In the past, encyclicals were just basically letters given to the bishops, but now everybody can receive or read an encyclical and be part of the vision of the church and where the church is going. And this is an important vision because it's about our environment, our earth, the creation that we are been entrusted to take care of, okay? So I was going to read to you the road to Emmaus, but I'm not. It's a really long scripture passage, and I think it's good that you sit down and read it. It's one of the first things you should do before you start this course is actually sit down and read this scripture and familiarize yourself with it. It'll, if you're not sure what it's about when you read it, you'll like, oh yeah, I know what this one is. And again, because we hear it every year at Easter, and it's such a powerful one. And I'm going to explain to you why it's a Lucan resurrection story. So what I do is I've looked up, how do people unpack this? So I love Ron Rolheiser's reflection on this. I'll include this for you guys. Ron Rolheiser, Father Ron Rolheiser is my kind of go-to when I want things explained. But when I was kind of doing my research on this, I found this reflection on it. I'm going to share this with you too. And I really like this one because it really brings light into why this was only found in Luke and what was going on that road. We talk about this road to Emmaus, but we don't know really the details. It's happening after the resurrection. We know that. What is the significance of this road? Where were they really going? What was the purpose, right? So I'll just read this to you. One of the Gospels we read during the Easter season is St. Luke's account of the appearance of Jesus to 2 disciples on the road to Emmaus after his resurrection. Who were these disciples and how did this account get into Luke's Gospel? So this is what you do when you study theology, right? It's looking into, who's unpacked this, who's done the research, who's written a commentary about this. We don't know the answers to those questions, but we can speculate. Traditions in the church and the Holy Land give us some hints. Luke said that one of the disciples was Cleopas. You've heard this name, right? But he doesn't name the other. St. John's Gospel says Mary, the wife of Cleopas, was among those standing by the cross when Jesus died. We believe that Cleopas and Cleopas were the same person. Furthermore, we believe that this person was also known as Alphaeus. But Catholic and Orthodox traditions believe that Cleopas was the younger brother of St. Joseph, the husband of Mary, and foster father of Jesus. Okay, so we're putting into perspective who some of these people were, like when we hear these names in scripture. Okay, so Simon was Jesus's cousin. So both Catholic and Orthodox traditions believe that Cleopas was the younger brother of St. Joseph, the husband of Mary, and the foster father of Jesus. Oh my gosh, I just said that. This would explain why Mary, the wife of Cleopas, was standing by the cross. She was trying to comfort her sister-in-law. So we're starting to see the connections of family here. I think this sheds light on who the other disciple on the road to Emmaus might have been. Mary, the wife of Cleopas. I like to believe that Cleopas and his wife Mary were close to Joseph and his wife Mary, and that the relationship continued with Mary after Joseph's death. Since Cleopas and Mary lived only 7 miles from Jerusalem in Emmaus, so it shows the proximity geographically, right, of these places we hear about in Scripture. They undoubtedly would have gone there for the Jewish feasts, especially for Passover. Okay, so remember, the Last Supper was Jesus celebrating the Passover, which he would have done because he was Jewish. So he and all his companions were Jewish, and they were celebrating what they would have done naturally just before Jesus died. And so that's where we have the first Mass from the last Passover that Jesus celebrated, right? Connections. Since they were family, Jesus' mother Mary might have stayed with them while they were all in Jerusalem. Perhaps they were there for the week before Jesus' crucifixion. They watched while Jesus rode a donkey in a great procession on the Sunday before his death, Palm Sunday. Perhaps they were among those who spread palm branches on the ground. They would have been there too when Jesus was arrested and crucified. Cleopas probably watched from some distance, as did the men, except John, but his wife was by the cross. Cleopas and Mary would have observed the Sabbath in Jerusalem, but then it was time for them to return to their home in Emmaus. Cleopas had been away for a week, and it was time for him to get back to work. But before they left, they heard that some women had gone to Jesus' tomb and couldn't find his body. They returned to report a vision of angels who announced that Jesus was alive. So they were discussing all of this when a man caught up with them and started to walk with them. This man went on to interpret things that referred to the Messiah in the scriptures. So remember, everything Jesus was saying, doing, was a fulfillment of the Judaic scriptures, the Hebrew scriptures, the Old Testament as we know it. Jesus was a fulfillment of this. So as Jesus was living out his life, they were making the connections with what they already heard in scripture. And that's how they were able to identify that Jesus was the Messiah. He was the chosen one. He was the fulfillment of scripture. Okay, you got to remember that fact too. When they arrived at Emmaus, Mary and Cleopas invited the man to stay with them. Mary hurried to prepare supper. When they sat down, the man took some bread, said a blessing, broke the bread, and gave it to them. At that, their eyes were open and they recognized Jesus. But just as they did, he vanished. Okay, so this is like our course, right? Our course is about encountering. So they encountered Jesus, on the road, and then the engaging, right? They invited, and then evangelize will come later. So Cleopas and Mary hurried back to Jerusalem to tell the apostles what had happened to them and how they recognized Jesus in the breaking of the bread. There's the evangelization has begun. In a writing from 180 AD, the historian Hegesippus wrote that Cleopas and Mary were the parents of Simon, Jesus' cousin, who became the second bishop of Jerusalem after the martyrdom of James in the year 62. Simon led the Christians across the Jordan River to Pella before the destruction of Jerusalem in 70, and then back again when it was safe. He built the first Christian church on Mount Zion. Some scholars believe that it was Simon, rather than his mother, who was accompanying his father to the road to Emmaus. On the road to Emmaus, it seems more likely to me, though, that his parents would have been traveling together. Scholars believe that Simon may have told Luke about the Emmaus experience, which is why it appears only in Luke's Gospel. Today, the Arab village of El Kobabi, 7 miles from Jerusalem, has a church built over what is believed to be Cleopas's home. There is also a Franciscan monastery there. Okay? This is why I loved studying theology. It's so awesome, right? So when you get more insight into a story, it just takes on a whole different light, a whole different understanding, and you can enter it into more. So the engaging, you're there, but then the encountering gets more, there's more depth to the encounter when you have more information, okay? So this is just me doing the extra research. I'm going to share it with you, but it's just an example of how we can take things up a notch. So when it comes time to us to evangelize, we have a better understanding, a better way of putting it together for the people we're evangelizing to, which are our students, our school community, our parent community, right? And so this goes back to my introduction when I landed in teaching religion finally, and it was like, okay, I really like this. This is what I want to do. I took my master's in religious education because I needed more information. I needed to be more authentic. I engaged, I had that encounter, but in order for me to evangelize, for me, I wanted the greater depth. So I studied theology because I knew this was going to be my specialty. This is where I was going to, this was where my road was taking me. My road to Emmaus was taking me down teaching religion and everything else that came down that road that I wasn't expecting. Okay, so I hope this helps in terms of putting that into perspective. And then again, we're going to be linking it with Laudato Si. So what you're going to find at the end of every module, you're going to see an integration task. So integration task 1 is the end of module 1, encounter. Integration task 2 is after engage. And integration task 3 you'll find at the end of evangelize. Now I'm telling you this because if you're comparing courses with other friends that might be taking the same course, originally those 3 integration tasks were in a module of itself. I found it confusing, and so did teachers trying to, like, okay, what is this? Why is this separate? So that's why I took it apart in its own module and tacked on each one to the end of the 3 main modules in this course. So it made sense. There was a bit of a flow so you weren't confused, okay? So every course, part 1, 2, and 3, has this integration task attached to the 3 modules, and it's to kind of bring it all together. And it's involving the Road to Emmaus and Laudato Si, but in different ways for the 3 courses. So again, you're growing with it. It's not meant to be repetitive, but it's meant to be greater depth. Just like I just gave you guys some greater depth now by reading this commentary to help you understand this scripture story a bit more. Okay, so that's so you'll notice that when you explore D2L. So if you've never done a online course, I've given you a day, I've given you Wednesday to kind of explore, and even if you've done online courses before, I've given you that day to explore, read, and to kind of feel for the flow of the course. How is this unfolding? How is this all going to work? And if you're in part 2, and you've taken the old part 1, it was, the format was different. We did, the modules were scripture, morality, sacraments, and faith. We still have that, but they're spread out through the 3 modules. So I did do a handout, showing that, we are studying scripture, we are studying morality and ethics, we are studying sacraments, and we're studying church history. Okay, and that, in that, it's rooted in Laudato Si and the Road to Emmaus. Okay, and then we are also touching on vocation and conversion, because this is our vocational call, so that has to be integrated. And of course, prayer is central to sustaining our spirituality, and prayer is what unites us. And we need to grow in understanding and experience in prayer too, especially if we're going to be leaders in Catholic education. Can we bring people to prayer together? Do we feel confident to lead people in prayer? We don't always have to look to somebody else to lead the prayer. Can you do that? And if you ever become an administrator, they are the faith leader of the school. Even if there's a chaplain in the school, even if you're a secondaries administrator, the principal is the faith leader of the school. So this is important for sustaining and maintaining our Catholic school system and moving it into the future, right? And honoring how it was given to us from the past, right? That's in the history of Catholic education. And it's entrusted in us. And since Vatican II opened the door for the laity. So big changes in 62 to 65 in the church that was our last Vatican Council, ecumenical council, and that said, let's bring in the laity, and that's us. And since publicly funded Catholic education in 84, we've seen the shift from the religious who built our schools and gave us our foundation to giving it over to us, the laity. And so it's up to us to respect, to continue to build on that foundation, and to become those faith leaders that the religious were. That makes sense, right? So that's why it's important for us as Catholic educators to also consider doing our Master's in Religious Education. It's a degree, a basic degree that's designed for teachers. You don't have to have an undergrad in theology. I didn't when I did it. It could be any degree. So it's structured so that it allows all of us to learn, to go greater into depth, but to complete this master's without that background in theology coming into it. And that's why we needed that degree, because we are now leading in Catholic education and we need to have a good background. So I hope that helps. I hope that gives some clarity. I will post these things so that you can read on your own what I had just read to you. Please start with this. Give yourself a space. Sit down. Bring yourself to a place of prayer and allow yourself to sit with this scripture passage. Maybe read it a couple of times. Maybe read it and just sit with it in the silence of your own life. And I know some of you are like laughing, thinking, I've got 3 kids and they're on summer vacation and la la la. I know it might be impossible, but try to give your moment, right? It's like me. I woke up at 6 today. It's 7:24 right now in the morning as I'm doing this video, because I know I needed the silence of the world, of the house, of everything in order to think and to create something, right? So good luck. And again, I'm always available. If there's any way I can help to add clarity, to help you in your faith journey, I'm forever a chaplain, so I am here. Don't be shy to reach out to me if you're struggling in your faith journey, if you have questions, if you have doubts, if you are challenged in any way. Use me. That's what I'm here for. When I agree to facilitating these courses, I give as much of myself as I can in the 5 weeks that we're going to be together, and I try to make myself as available as I can to help you find success, growth in faith, and hopefully help you find your passion for faith, and that we continue to move together as a Catholic school community of Catholic educators, moving forward and protecting this amazing gift that we were given. Okay, let's get started. Peace.